Hello, investors, and welcome to another edition of 18 Minutes with 180 Markets. And friends, as you know, we are always seeking out those companies that really have that ability to explode. But not only that, today I'm thrilled because we are rejoined by Raiden Resources Managing Director Dusko Ljubojevic, because Dusko is a person that has already executed. Because when we first started talking with him, his share price has moved up now circa 400–500%. So clearly there is something there. But as investors, it's more about what's to come, not what has been. But certainly the record is there and it is a super exciting company. And with that introduction, Dusko, welcome back.
Thank you. Good to be back.
Hey, Dusko, for investors that are not quite so familiar with the Raiden story, can you just explain a little bit, especially about the company's Pilbara located, which is emerging as a really world-class lithium region, and how does Raiden fit into that mix?
Certainly. So, our key project is the Andover South project. We acquired this ground quite recently. It was complementing our Andover North project. So, I think the name Andover, everybody knows it because obviously this has been the Azure story of the year, probably in Australia in terms of the markets. Similar to Azure, we were a nickel copper explorer at that time. We were initially looking at the ground from the nickel copper perspective. After their success, we kind of went back, had a look at the properties again, and we've managed to define some very significant pegmatites, high-grade pegmatites on the project. It's immediately adjacent to Andover, and look, we've been preparing for a drilling campaign for the last 8 months. We've been doing a lot of work on the ground and making sure that all the permitting is in place, which now it is. We're going through the final stages to essentially get our, get the rigs on the ground. So really exciting time for the company because over the short term, we anticipate we'll be getting the rigs on the ground and drill testing these pegmatites.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned about the grades that you've had some certainly very, very encouraging grades just looking through here. Can you just explain also that you had some grades up to, I believe it's 3.8%. Can you just explain about your grades and maybe not quite in as technical detail, if you will?
Yeah, sure. Look, these are grab samples from surface. So it was during our mapping exercise, we defined the pegmatites in detail. We can see them at surface over tens of meters, which is important. We're not looking at sniffs. We are seeing pretty large pegmatites, which, as you say, are carrying up to close to 4% Li2O. Furthermore, the petrology has confirmed that spodumene is the key lithium mineral there, which is very important. That is the mineral that you want. It's the easiest to process and gives you the best grades and best concentrates. Um, so, and as I mentioned earlier, the pegmatites are quite wide, and this gives us a lot of encouragement because I think what's really driven the Azure story up the road, where they've sold a project for 1.7 billion for a
That would be
60%
nice.
stake. It would be very nice. Um, and look, yeah, I think the market's very excited because they see the potential for replication of the system. We're in the same geology, just down strike from where Azure's had their success. So I think that's why the eyes are on Raiden at the moment.
Right, exactly. Now, as far as from a timing point of view, as you said, I believe it was on May 20th, you had the final heritage clearance. What could investors look out for over the next or over the rest of the year?
So we've submitted our POWs, programs of work, for approval. Essentially, that's what we're waiting for. And then what's going to happen will be a two-phase drilling program. On the one hand, we're going to be doing an air core drill campaign. This is just a targeting tool to define more prospects, hopefully, pegmatites which are under a thin cover of sand, which we haven't been able to map out so far. And there'll be a diamond and an RC drilling campaign on the main Andover South project where we've defined these properties. So from the Andover South project, there should be drilling between from when we start, which we hope will be very soon, right up through to the end of the year at the very least, and a lot of results coming out from that.
Right. Wow. So that's a big long-term program. And can I ask, getting a little bit more specific, will the first number of results that you get, say, over the first 60 or 90 days, shape the rest of the campaign?
Uh, I believe so. I believe so. So yeah, we're going to be obviously targeting the biggest pegmatites with the highest grades initially, and from there it'll be an exercise of just following them down to depth
Right.
and along strike. So it'll be an extensive drill campaign.
Right. And Dusko, as we've discussed, your market cap has really exploded. This whole area, the Andover region, if you will, has really caught on fire. Can you just explain also about, for investors, the infrastructure that's up there, the nearby services and so forth and so on? Like, is this, I guess the question I'm really trying to ask is this area truly mineable?
Uh, Absolutely. I think that's probably one of the key aspects why a lot of companies are getting value for their projects in this area. You know, we're right up next to Karratha. All the mining services companies are there. Uh, Power is in there. Eh, Sealed highways. So you're driving every day. You're driving back to a camp. We don't have to build our own mining camps. Um, Port is right there.
Yeah.
So all the key export markets are, a short boat ride away. So in terms of infrastructure, it's really the probably one of the best locations in Australia to find a deposit.
Yeah, and I think that investors that this is so important what Dusko is talking about right now because I believe what is somewhat different between now and call it 2020, 2021 is that investors really are focused on those projects that can truly become producing. And as you know, Dusko, it takes more than just a discovery. It takes everything, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And I mean, if you kind of also take into account that we are literally a stone throws away from one of the biggest discoveries in Australia, lithium discoveries, recent ones. That adds another dimension of value to the project. Um, so I believe the Andover project, Azure's Andover project, will ultimately, be developed. It's probably going to be fast tracked, and that adds a lot of value to us as well. We're adjacent to them.
Yes. And Jessica, I want to turn it a little bit right now. You use the word value. You've certainly created a tremendous amount of shareholder value, but it's not
Mhm.
lost on investors because you have some smart investors that follow you around, mainly First Quantum as an example, a circa $15 billion Canadian company there that I believe you've entered into a JV with. And you've also pivoted the company a number of times. Can you just talk to us? What is a smart mining executive do that maybe helps people like how you've been able to create value?
Um, I mean, firstly, I will say there is a huge element of luck in it, right?
Okay,
We're all in the exploration
sure.
game, so we have to we have to understand what sort of a sport we're in. So there is
Yeah,
an element of fortune in the game. But one of the things that we've done over the last couple of years is you use the word pivot.
yeah,
So we like to be relatively dynamic with our projects. We like to evaluate the projects rather quickly and determine if it's something that we think is going to have the potential to generate value for shareholders. And you want to determine that as early as possible. If you're at a point where you cannot finance the project, it's time to either bring in a partner like we've done at Mount Shoal,
right.
or dispose of it and find a new opportunity. So we've been very dynamic in this regard, making decisions relatively quickly with respect to what has the potential to really generate uh, return for our shareholders and what doesn't. And we've been very transactive on the projects where we've determined that it's probably not in the best interest for us to deploy money. We've ensured that we always bring in a partner, and we've done a
Right.
lot of that over the last 12 months. So the idea is, my view is we want to see money being spent across the entire portfolio on whatever project we pick up on. And if we're not doing it, we do it through partnerships. And when you have money being spent, ultimately, this can lead to discoveries.
Right. And I think that that's a great lesson as far as what it sounds like is also really focusing on what's going to deliver value and frankly being, very level-headed about it, if you will, not getting too married to any one project per se, if it's not delivering, I suppose.
Absolutely. I mean, the market will also give you on the one hand, the market will tell you what they want you to focus on and what they don't care about, and we listen. But at the same time, we have to understand what the projects are, what kind of value can they deliver, and then find the best way how to move them forward. So, for example, we weren't getting a lot of value for our projects in Eastern Europe, which are porphyry and epithermal projects.
Right.
Um, but and we stopped spending money on them. But at the same time, we made sure we brought in partners to advance these things, because some of the porphyries that have been discovered here in the district, they've yielded plus
Huge.
billion-dollar returns for some on discovery. So we see the value in this. From a technical point of view, we understand the projects. We've brought in good partners, and right now, pretty much every single project within our portfolio is being worked on either by us. We're focused on the Andover South project and the lithium portfolio in the Pilbara, but both in Eastern Europe and across the Pilbara, there is money being spent and drilling is being planned across multiple projects, which really adds that dimension to the company, which gives you, defense in depth, if you
Yeah.
so want to call it, because there is the opportunity for a discovery pretty much, on every project being worked on.
Yes, and if you don't get out there, you certainly can't make a discovery last time I checked. You can't do it from your desk, can you?
Exactly, exactly.
Hey, Dusko, I know that you're traveling a lot and tired, and we really do appreciate your time. In closing, if there's one or two comments about Raiden you'd like every investor to know, can you just, what would they be?
We have a drill campaign coming up that will be drill testing, some potential game-changing pegmatites. Everyone's heard of the Azure story. Everyone's followed it. A lot of people came in and made a lot of money on it. So uh, that is probably the key value driver for us right now and the biggest anticipation. But I would encourage investors to have a look at across the portfolio and keep an eye on the results, which will be coming out of both Mount Shoal, which is an advanced nickel copper palladium project in the Pilbara, right next to port facilities and rail and power. Arrow project in the Pilbara, which is just up the road from Hemi. We've just signed an agreement there, as well as a few other projects in Eastern Europe. So there's going to be a lot of news flow coming out of the company.
Dusko, you're definitely a busy man, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Greg.
Bye bye.